Hello everyone and welcome to week 2. We are still on Unit 1, choosing a topic and planning the project. This will be our last week of that, and next week we'll be starting finding and using sources effectively. You'll notice that throughout the assignments, especially for the research proposal, you will be finding sources, and that's why I give you the link to the finding sources. As you'll notice, there is the requirement to have 5 sources for the research proposal, but this is all that's all preliminary research. That's just sort of trying to get in, find some useful information to really help you get a background on the topic you want to choose. There's really nothing worse for a project, especially a semester-long project, than trying to choose your topic that's going to be your topic throughout the entire semester. That's another thing to consider. Without looking and making sure that there's actually enough information out there to write a topic. Because if you just sort of wing it and say, I want to write about a specific sport or a specific medical issue, and then you realize, oh wait, there's not actually science, like a social science or any kind of actual like academic research on it, you're going to find yourself really floundering by like week 4 or 5, and you're going to find yourself either wanting to change topics or having to rely on non-scholarly sources, which will not allow you to do the requirements. So that's really why in the research proposal we spend that time looking for sources. We will look more into the sources a little more deeply next week and the week after, starting with the annotated bibliography. Okay, so this week we're still on the planning and choosing. As you can tell, the discussion forum is due tomorrow at 11:59. In many ways it's very similar to the Exploring the Social Sciences of last week, both of which the goals were to, get you invested in the idea of looking for a topic, for choosing a topic. And this one is very similar. It's more specific, so hopefully you'll land on something a little more strongly. But yeah, there's already some people, it looks like, that have done it. And you have plenty of time. I realize that because of the long weekend, many of you probably are only now getting back to it. The other assignment that'll be due this week is the research proposal, and I talked a little bit about that, less than a minute ago. So you kind of have an idea of the importance of finding sources for that already, but that'll be due on Sunday, September 8th. There's 3 chapters to read. Writing a research proposal, that'll be immensely important for the end of the week. Gathering information, which is just going to be like basic stuff on how to find good information. And online research. Again, next unit is going to be focusing more on finding and using sources, but this is just the basic stuff we need, so you're able to kind of find background material and get where you need to be. Because, of course, a lot of your background research is going to come from Google and Wikipedia or wherever. You can find a lot of really good background stuff from that, but that's not going to be good foundation for your actual project. That's going to be good foundation to knowledge, but when you're actually moving forward and doing the research proposal and you need to do, I think 3 of the sources need to be from academic, actual social science research, and moving on it's going to be even more than that. So, you really want to make sure you read those chapters about gathering information and online research, because they're going to help you understand the best way to do this. Of course, after reading your initial forum questions from last week, a lot of you do have a pretty fair amount of experience with research. That's kind of expected. At this point, you've all taken 101, and depending who taught that section of 101, there's going to be a varying degree of teaching on research there, but a lot of you have also taken, people that tend to be in their 2nd or 3rd year when they take this class, tend to also have done other research classes. So a lot of you already have a little bit of a leg up here, but it's still good to read and refresh it. And as far as research sources for the week go, you'll find the finding sources and writing a research question. Both of those are going to link you to the LibGuides. I will suggest reading through both of those. The finding sources is really just going to link you to the catalog. There'll be a couple things, like little Like there's the keyword search thing, which is extraordinarily useful. Keywords and subjects aren't the same thing. You're going to find that, and that is stuff that can guide you, and that'll really suggest you looking over. But the really helpful thing towards the end of the week when you're looking at a research question is going to be going through and tackling that section of the LibGuide. Of course, you'll learn a good amount about research proposals in the writing a research. You'll learn a lot about research questions reading the writing a research proposal. But really, if you look at the research guide, the library guide, it is going to take you every step of the way that you need to make an effective research question. And I'll get a little bit more into research questions in a second after I explain the assignment. Not that you necessarily need an explanation for the assignment, but it's good for me to go over it just so that there's no confusion. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the discussion forum too heavily. It's pretty straightforward. There's a couple questions. It shows you subject, topic, focus, question. So it's pretty straightforward. It's going to kind of, again, reiterate a lot of what we talked about last week in the last forum and the example of the social science topics. It's going to talk about what social science is. It's going to go through and show you the process. And it's really going to be where you're going to sit down like, okay, this is where I think I want to go. The research proposal, on the other hand, is a little bit trickier. Again, the assignment is modeled from the book. So if you read the chapter in the book, you're going to find it being pretty much spot on what I expect. But I'd still like to kind of go through it. So kind of step by step, just so you have the explanation. Of course, there'll be the first part, which is the topic. This is just what your focus topic is. At this point, your topic is going to be something more than just like college sports. Your topic might look something more like pay for college athletes. It might be like, instead of just being like agriculture in America, it might specifically be about drought in California and how that has affected like population or whatever. Your topic is really trying to be focused. It's not as focused as your research question, but you need to have a little bit more of a specific idea than just like, the umbrella topic, of course, the social sciences, like that first step down on the umbrella is going to be, the kind of the spokes holding the umbrella up. That's going to be your major topic. Like, it's going to be like your more specific topic, and the handle itself is going to be, the more specific, the thing that's going to be holding the rest of it up. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but it's the first thing that kind of came to my mind because of the old saying umbrella topic. Anyways, so the questions, this part always kind of gives people a little bit of a difficult time because later on it's asking for a research question, and a lot of times people have difficulty establishing the difference between the research question and the three questions here. Basically, the function of these three questions is that they are going to help lead you to your overall research question. So, for instance, if you are doing a paper on college athletes and pay, one of your first three questions might be why, something very simple like what is the major reason why college athletes aren't paid? Of course, it's not a simple question because the answer is very complex, but that might be the first thing that you might have like a big question about. The second question might be like, what changes would happen if college athletes were paid? So those kinds of questions. That's going to be the stuff that really you're just trying to generate questions about the topic that you think might lead you to interesting background research and also like interesting sub-questions. That's going to be a good space for you to explore. The next section is going to be significance, why my topic is important, how it reflects on the social science disciplines, can it be explored in a cause or effect or problem solution kind of way. So the significance here, you're trying to say, why is this thing important not only to social sciences, but also to just to the broad public in general. Is there a problem here? Is there a solution? What you'll find a lot of times is that it's easy to come up with a topic that is interesting to you, but isn't particularly either controversial or I want to say multifaceted as opposed to controversial. Like, for instance, this is just a dumb example, but if I was going to write a paper, air is important for people, air is significant to people, but that's not controversial, that's not interesting, that's not affecting, the absence of it would be affecting, but that statement itself isn't significant. You're not going to be able to write a paper about that. So if we talk about, college sports and paying college athletes, why is that significant? Well, we can look at it on many fronts. Not only is it significant to the athletes themselves, who, whether or not they're getting paid, means something financially for them, and especially when it comes to imaging rights for like games and whatever, where a lot of that money is made. So they're at stake. You look at the companies that are making money, the NCAA, they're making a ton of money. If they have to pay students, that's going to change stuff. You also have the significance of schools that can't offer scholarships to students for sports because they're not in the upper tiers. So you can see how this topic is significant to a bunch of different people, but also to social sciences as a whole, because if we look at sports, we know that that's a social science topic. We can say, okay, I can understand how this is affecting humans and human behavior and the connections humans have to each other. So again, that's just an example of telling me what the significance of your topic is. You're going to have a little bit about your preliminary research. This is going to be what you kind of already know about the topic based off of the research you've done by looking through the sources you've discovered, but also just like maybe Wikipedia articles or just your general knowledge. This isn't going to be huge. I really, maybe a paragraph or two just to like show me like what you know already at the end of the research proposal. That way, like, I can tell if this is a topic that you are going to be able to succeed at. Again, it's pretty easy to stumble down a topic that you're not interested in, or that might not have a ton of research on it, or that might not have different stances on it. And one way to determine whether or not that's the case is to actually summarize your research up to now. And I can be like, okay, this is a topic that they thought about, this is a topic that has legs. Because ultimately a research proposal is my ability to look at your topic and say, okay, this can probably function for the entire semester. Your audience, this is another, or keywords, this is going to be terms that you're using to search. Again, you can really look at how to break down and make good keywords based off of the research, the library research guide. Definitely you want to look at that. It is a really great breakdown. But basically, and I mentioned this a little bit in some of the forum responses that I've done so far, but when you're looking at good keywords, what you really want to make sure is that, if you look at the research guide, there's the pyramid where, you might start with like your topic and then break it down into words that are related to the topic and then break that down to words that are related to those other words. Basically, when you're thinking of keywords, you're really trying to find stuff that is going to help you in the search engine itself. Find good information. What you're going to find is that a lot of you are, not just you, but a lot of like newer researchers tend to mistake the idea of a subject for a keyword. And although like your subject can be a part of the process that you use to find good keywords, if you just type in college basketball, that's the subject, you're going to get a huge array of information that's not always going to be relevant. So, you want to take that down to, if your big topic is college basketball, then you go down, college basketball pay, and then you look at it like, okay, pay disputes. Like, that's a pretty good 2-word phrase. that with quotation marks around it to join it together, that could be a good keyword or set of keywords. You can also look at specific players, or you can look at whatever. You really want your keywords to be more than just the top line information, because that's how you're going to find really good specific articles for yourself, especially when we're talking about databases. When it comes to Google and stuff, there's a lot more room for natural language, but when we're looking at the actual databases, you really do want to make sure that you're using these keywords, just because that's how they function. Okay, and then you're going to do the audience. A lot of times people think that this section is about telling you who your audience is, and that's not the case. What this really is because your audience for the essay is going to be me and your peers, an academic audience. So you're really trying to find the things that I might assume to be a stereotype or a generalization, or the academic audience might assume to be a stereotype or a generalization. So again, I'm just going with college basketball because it's something a lot of people know about, and also it's something I get a lot of papers about. But one assumption might be is that maybe they're not getting paid, but that their compensation packages are enough that paying them is not necessary. That might be an assumption or a generalization or a stereotype. It might still be right, it might still be wrong. I mean, that's a part of your papers to convince me of something. But when it comes down to it, that might be a stereotype that I make, or a generalization that I might make. So that's the kind of stuff you're looking for there. What are the kinds of things that your audience might expect? Are those things true? Are those things false? You're really just trying to nail down common misconceptions or common assumptions. And then we get to the research question. And this is going to be probably the most important part about this, in the sense that the research question is what you're going to be taking forward. And the thing with the research question is, again, I would definitely look at the research writing LibGuide. I've given you a link to that. It's extraordinarily useful, and it's going to teach you how to construct your research question, how to develop it to begin with, and tell you why it's important. Of course, I'm going to talk about that a little bit now, but sort of in a bigger picture sense, because the tools you have on a smaller sense are going to be both in the LibGuide and in the book. But a lot of people, when they start working at the research question, they mistake it again for those first three questions they're asking. It's easy just to think to yourself, okay, I want my research question to be something like, why are college athletes not paid? That might seem like a good research question. The problem with a research question like that is it's very broad. You're going to find that, and this is a 12-page paper, so you'll have a lot more, the overall project is going to be a 12-page paper, so you're going to have more room than other 5 to 6-page papers that you might, but still you're going to find that answering the questions, why aren't they getting paid, isn't going to necessarily be helpful. Also, the why of it makes it an inquisitive instead of an argumentative project, where we're really trying to be writing an argument. So we're trying to create a situation where you are arguing that college athletes should be paid because blank, or whatever. So when we're looking at research questions, we want it to be specific. We want it to be active. We want it to open up instead of close down. Something like, why don't college athletes get paid? It's a good question, and that's why it's something useful to add in those top 3 questions, but you're not really getting us to where we need to be. When we think about narrowing it down a little bit, so instead of college athletes, maybe we talk specifically about college basketball. If we talk about payment, maybe we talk specifically about, again, using their visual rights in gaming, or using their image when it comes to advertising, or maybe you want to talk about specifically scholarships. So we're looking at finding a question that we can narrow down into a phrase that is going to lead us to something more important, something more essential that you can actually argue. So if we go to the LibGuides, you'll see the construction, and that construction is going to be something like a question word, an action, verb, the topic, the relationship, and that's going to lead you to that research question, the angle that you're trying to make. So why and how, you don't want anything that's going to be yes or no. Action, verb. A lot of times people want to ask stuff like, how have blank affected blank. Affect is a particularly bad verb for asking a question because it doesn't actually lead us anywhere. It doesn't actually do anything. And then your topic again. So if we said how being, if we say why are college basketball players not paid, we're getting a lot of that. We're getting the why. We're getting paid is the verb. We're getting college athletes. We're getting, an angle. So again, that is a pretty good structure, but we need to see it narrowed down a bit. And again, if you go under that, the thesis, you're going to kind of move forward, and it's going to tell you really how to get down to it. Another reason why the research question is important, and this is something that a lot of people have a hard time kind of going across, is that ultimately the thesis is the answer to your research question. So a lot of you, almost everybody at this point has worked with a thesis. You know that it is the thesis statement is going to be the thing that is telling your audience what your paper is going to be about. It's going to be the thing that's telling us what you're arguing about. Well, the research question, if you write a strong research question, is going to be the foundation for that thesis. So if you write a question, why aren't college athletes given rights to their imagery by the NCAA, right? Then the answer to that, the thesis would be the answer to that. By having a strong research question, you are going to get to a strong thesis. If, for instance, your thesis might be, after doing all the research and finding all the preliminary stuff and really thinking about it and going through those other steps, your thesis might be, they aren't being allowed to have these rights because, there's a lot of reasons, but you might argue that the reason why your thesis might be they're not allowed to have the rights to their images because, and there's two ways this usually falls. One is because those image rights count as payment, which would invalidate the amateurism of the sport and affect it negatively. And the other side is that they're not allowed to have those images because the companies want the money. And you could argue either way. There are arguments either way. But that's sort of the point of a research question. Is not only is it going to focus your research, not only is it going to give you, a direction moving forward, but it's going to be a baseline. If you have a strong research question, you are going to have a strong thesis eventually. What you will find is that your research question is going to evolve. Before you even get to a thesis, you might find yourself saying, okay, maybe I'm too specific with the image rights. There's a specific word for it, but I can't think of it right now. You might think, okay, that's too much. Maybe I want to scoot back a little bit and talk about salary and image rights being like a piece of that money being made. So you might your research question might shift, and then you might start researching another direction. Or maybe you find that you're not interested in that aspect of it anymore. You really want to talk about scholarships and how certain tiers of college play are the ones that are allowed to actually have certain types of scholarships and whether or not those scholarships match salaries. So you might find yourself shifting to something else. So keep in mind that the research question you're coming up with isn't the end-all and be-all. There are going to be changes. Once you look at sort of the next upcoming assignments, you're going to notice that there's going to be it'll say something like preliminary research question, the question that you have at that moment. Remember that although it's important to have a research question, don't think of it as like a way to chain you down to a topic or to a piece of that topic. You might find yourself stumbling on something more interesting. For a lot of people that might be interested in talking about like the effects of climate change on populations, like the population section being the social science as opposed to the natural sciences, you might find that you started off being really interested in the agricultural aspect and how that's changing, like the economics of it, to the migration aspect, where we see a lot of, we will continue to see a lot of migration happening because of the way that droughts are happening because of that. So, I mean, yeah, you're going to find maybe some change, and that's absolutely okay. Okay, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. I just really wanted to get a clear picture of what the research question is. And of course, again, you're going to read it in the book, you're going to see it in the library guide, but I want to be able to tell you sort of why that it's important. Okay, so the last piece of this is going to be your preliminary sources, and this is going to basically be 5 sources that you find to build up this question, or that you find with this question, with your keywords. This is going to be where a lot of your preliminary research, that section goes into. You're expected to have 5. You want to have copy and pasted citation. If you look through if you get these through like the library databases, there will be just a copy and paste. You'll find the citation, you can click the button, and then you can copy and paste it and paste that in here. At this point, I don't really expect you to have mastered how to create your own citations yet. So if you find something outside of the library databases, especially for the 2 sources that don't need to be scholarly or based off of research, so like newspapers and that kind of stuff, as long as you can like give me the link and like the title and the author, that's okay for now. Moving on, I'm definitely going to want you to get the sources down, but I don't even think we're going to learn that till next week or the week after. So in a case where you're using the databases and the stuff is there for you, then of course use those, but otherwise you can just paste in the link and then the title and the author. And again, that's 5 for now, 3 of which have to be scholarly or based off of actual research, and you'll find those mostly through the databases, the library databases, which there's a link to, so you can use that. So we're almost to a half hour. I don't like lecturing more than that because I noticed the numbers go down on people that actually watch it, but hopefully that's useful. Again, use every resource you have, read the book, look at the website, ask me questions. I will answer my email whenever I can. I work pretty 9 to 5, so I usually am not going to answer much during the day except for on my lunch break, but that being said, I will try to get to you as soon as I can. Get a hold of the library. Joe, who's our liaison, I have his email. He's happy to answer your emails about research, although ask questions about the assignment to me. But if you need to go into the library, go to the reference desk, and anybody there can help you at any step of the way. There's also the writing center. Don't be afraid to ask, because this is an online class. A lot of people feel weird about asking emails, but I will literally, I've had 10 comment chains of, or emails of a chain to help somebody solve something, to help them understand it. That's why I'm here. I am a pretty good teacher. I'm a pretty good online teacher, and part of that is being available to you whenever I can, to the extent that that's possible. Of course, it's an online class, so you're expected to have a little bit more autonomy than in a normal class, but still, I am here for you. Okay, I think that is all I am going to have to say right now. Again, welcome to the second week. This is where stuff starts getting real. This is, from here on, there's no more sort of intro stuff. It's just getting into it. So I look forward to working with you on that. I really did enjoy your forum posts from last week. I've replied to all of them for the first, and I'm working through the second forum post. I should have those done tomorrow. Usually I try to have the assignment's done before the next assignment is due, although that is possible to change. But yeah, so really been excited working with you guys so far. I'm really excited to see it out, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.